Okay, we'll start with chapter 1 of history, rise of nationalism in Europe. We are going to start with that. I hope you all have your history books with you. Keep your book with you, keep a pencil with you. All right. So whenever something important is told to you, you can note it down there itself. So keep your book and pencil with you and be ready. Nationalism in Europe, rise of nationalism in Europe. We'll start with that. Okay. You know that in class 9 we had read about the French Revolution. And the French Revolution was the beginning of throwing away of the autocratic governments, the rule of the kings, and setting up democratic and republican governments. So that carried on in Europe with the beginning of the French Revolution, and many countries, they became nation states. They did not exist as nation states. Like there were countries in which ruled under by the king, but in which there were people who had different languages, they had different culture, and they were not nation states. Now we live in India, we have our own culture, we have our history, we all belong to India. We have a sense of belongingness to India, and that is why we call that our nation is India. But there people did not have this feeling of belongingness to the place where they live, because the king's kingdom was made up of small different areas of different countries, in which you had German speaking people, you had French speaking people, you had some other Polish speaking people. So their culture was different, their history was different, everything different. Then how to bring about a feeling of one nation among them? How to develop this feeling of nationalism in them? How did this develop? That is what we are going to learn in this chapter, that is rise of nationalism in Europe. Okay, so I'll read and explain. So be ready with your book. While I read, you also look into your book, and then I'll keep explaining also. All right. Now on the first page, you can see there's a painting. A painting can be seen. All right, you find plenty of people coming in a line. There's a statue. Can you see a torch of enlightenment there is there in the hands of that statue? It can be called the Statue of Liberty. It has a book type of thing in one of its ends. That is the Charter of Human Rights. What all rights human beings should have in a country. All this is there. So you can see that in this picture. This painting was made by Frederick Soriot. He had made 4 paintings. This is one of them. And what you see, let's read and see now. In 1848, Frederick Soriot, a French artist, prepared a series of 4 prints visualizing his dream of a world made up of democratic and social republics, as he called them. He had a dream that the world should be made of democratic socialist countries, republican countries, not the monarchy which is here. He did not like monarchy. So he had a dream that this should be the world. World should be like this, where every country is democratic, countries are republic, countries are socialist countries, where people think about the society, about the common people. He wanted that type of country, and he made a series of 4 paintings. This is one out of those 4 paintings. The first print of the series shows the peoples of Europe and America, men and women of all ages and social classes, marching in a long train and offering homage to the Statue of Liberty as they passed by it. So I told you the Statue of Liberty is the statue that you see there. Liberty means freedom, where everyone is equal. Equality of law is there. Equality before law. Everyone is equal before law. So we all want that type of country. We all want to live in that type of country, and that was the dream of Frederick Soriot. So what he did? So he made this painting. In the painting, you can see people are marching, and by the flags, you can understand that these people belong to different countries. And one by one, they are moving in front of the Statue of Liberty. Those countries which have already crossed, that means they are free now. They are nation states. Those who have not crossed, that is, their revolutions are going on and they are in the process of becoming nations. That is what he explains from this line of people moving. As you would recall, artists of the time of the French Revolution personified liberty as a female figure. Here you can recognize the torch of enlightenment she bears in one hand and the charter of the rights of man in the other. So, artists, they gave a female figure to liberty. Liberty was symbolized as a female figure. And how do you recognize this female figure is of liberty? Because she has a torch of enlightenment. Where you are enlightened, you have knowledge, you have wisdom. That type of torch is there in her hand, and the other hand has the charter of the rights of man. It means when you are in a democratic country, when you are in a republican country, every human being has his rights, human rights. He gets respect. Everybody is equal before law. So when you find such a figure, that means it is a figure of liberty. So that is the Statue of Liberty. You can see there. On the earth, in the foreground of the image, lie the shattered remains of the symbols of absolutist institution. You see in front, the people are walking there, and in front of the people, you can see some rubble is lying there. Some broken pieces of things are lying there. Buildings and all that, broken pieces are lying there. That shows with the coming of liberty, with the coming of democratic and socialist republic countries, monarchical countries will come to an end. The monarchical rule will come to an end. So these broken pieces, stones and things, they show an end of monarchy. That is shown by these broken pieces which are lying there in front. In Soroy's utopian vision. Now, what is utopian vision? What does utopian mean? You can see the meaning is given there. A vision of a society that is so ideal that it is unlikely to actually exist. You think that a society should be such a society where everyone is equal, where no one is poor, where no one is oppressed by anyone. All are having a happy life. Is it possible to have such a society? It is just a dream. We all want such a society. No violence, no crime, peace everywhere. Is it possible? Very difficult. So this type of vision, this type of dream, which makes things to appear that we should have such an ideal society, but it is not likely to be possible that we may have ideal society. Such a vision is known as utopian vision. We want such a society, but it is very far from reality. It can only be a dream. Very difficult to have such a society. So that is the utopian vision. So Frederick Soroy's this painting is an utopian vision. He wishes that all should be free, all should be equal, everyone should have human rights. He wants that. But the realization of this dream is a very difficult thing. Leading the procession way past the Statue of Liberty are the United States and Switzerland. Why they have passed, they have gone in front, gone ahead of the Statue of Liberty, they have crossed it, which by this time were already nation states. They had already become nation states. They were liberated, they were nation states. That is why they have already crossed the Statue of Liberty. Then France, identifiable by the revolutionary tricolor, it has just reached the statue. All right, you can see with the flag, the people who are in front of the statue, they have just reached the statue. That means French Revolution was taking place in France, and they are also going to be liberated. Autocracy, the monarchical government is going to end there. So they have reached the statue. They have reached liberty. She is followed by the peoples of Germany, wearing the black, red, and gold flag. Interestingly, at the time when Soroy created this image, the German people did not yet exist as a united nation. Germany was not one Germany, one country. But still, in his dream, in his painting, he presented Germany as one country, people under one flag. He had this dream. Later, Germany became also like that. But when he made this painting, that time it was not like this. But still, he visioned. He had a dream to have it like that. The flag they carry is an expression of liberal hopes in 1848 to unify the numerous German-speaking principalities into a nation-state under a democracy. This flag of Germany, showing people with it, shows that at that time the liberals, they had a dream. They wanted all the German-speaking people to become one nation, develop as one nation. So they were working for it. That was their dream. And that is why it is depicted here. Now you see how this Germany was made. Following the German people, after German people, you have the people of Austria, Kingdom of Two Sicilies, Lombardy, Poland, England, Ireland, Hungary, and Russia. All these are behind Germany. They all are coming in a line towards the Statue of Liberty. From the heavens above, Christ, saints, and angels gaze upon the scene. They have been used by the artists to symbolize fraternity among the nations of the world. And you see in that same painting, you can see Jesus is there, Jesus Christ. He is there from top, looking down at the people. Then there are angels and all looking at the people, blessing. So that means even religion supports this. Liberty, becoming one nation. Religion also supports this. That is what he wanted to show in this painting. So that what he is saying is very correct, and he is supporting it by making Christ and angels and everyone looking at the people and blessing them. That means he says that even in the eyes of religion, even in the eyes of God, in the eyes of angels, this vision, this system of government, that is the utopian vision that he is having, a world which is made up of nationalist, republic, socialist countries, this type of countries should exist in a world, then only the world will become a peaceful and good world. So what we are going to learn here? This chapter will deal with many of the issues visualized by Sorio in figure 1. During the 19th century, nationalism emerged as a force which brought about sweeping changes in the political and mental world of Europe. Big change in the political and mental world of Europe because of liberalism, because of wanting to become one nation. The feeling of nationalism started coming in the people. The end result of these changes was the emergence of the nation state. Once people have this feeling that we should belong to one nation, we should belong to this country, then only what happens, things develop and a nation state develops, comes out. I told you Germany was made of different groups of people who speak different language, have different culture. And the people who were speaking Germany were divided into different kingdoms under different kings. Now, when you dream of a nation state, you mean that all German-speaking people, all having the same culture, all having the same history, should live in one country together. That is the feeling of nationalism. So slowly, as nationalism developed, what was the end result? Nation states started developing. And the multinational dynastic empires got destroyed. That is what is shown in that painting in front. Broken pieces of buildings lying there. That is the monarchical governments coming to an end. The concept and practices of a modern state in which a centralized power exercises sovereign control over a clearly defined territory had been developing over a long period of time in Europe. So in Europe, the thinkers, the people, they have been talking about this, that a country where there should be no monarchy and there should be such a government, a central power should rule over people belonging to the same culture, same belongingness. Who is this talking in between?
और भी अभी तो काफी है।
Who's that? State was
ये हनुमंतंदा
of a modern which a centralized power exercise sovereign control over a clearly defined territory and developing over a long period of time in Europe. But a nation state was one in which the majority, now see the definition of nation state. Nation state, you can underline this. Nation state was one in which the majority of its citizens and not only its rulers came to develop a sense of common identity and shared history or descent. Same belongings, same culture, same language. When all this comes together, then a nation state develops. That is nation state. That is the definition of a nation state. This commonness did not exist from time immemorial, but this commonness, this belonging to one group was not there in the people. It was forced to the actions of leaders and common people. How these things come about? From struggles. Revolutions have to take place. Leaders have to come up to guide the people. Thinkers have to come up with their new ideologies, new views, to make the people understand why this type of system should be followed, why the one that is going on is not good. So it is not that today we think that today monarchy will start with democracy. Not possible.
Sir, your voice is not coming clear, sir.
How can I hear my voice?
Sir, in between it is lagging, sir.
It may be because of your network.
No, sir.
All right. So we'll start with this, the French Revolution and the idea of nation. You did about French Revolution in class 9, so we'll start with that only. The first clear expression of nationalism came with the French Revolution in 1789. France, as you would remember, was a full-fledged territorial state, that is, under the king's rule. In 1789, under the rule of absolute Louis XVI. We have done this in class 9, isn't it? The political and constitutional changes that came in the wake of a French Revolution led to the transfer of sovereignty from the monarchy to a body of French citizens. And with the coming of the French Revolution, with the taking of the French Revolution, what happened? Monarchy came to an end and a body of French citizens started ruling over France. The revolution proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth constitute the nation and shape its destiny. And with the French Revolution, this thing or this idea came before the people that it is people who should make the policy. It is the people who should rule themselves, not a king. Sorry. From the very beginning, the French revolutionaries introduced various measures and practices that could create a sense of collective identity among the French people. And from the beginning, people started bringing up such type of things which could create a sense of oneness among the people, a belongingness among the people. What are these? Let's see. The ideas of la patrie, that is the fatherland, and les citoyens, that is citizen. Everyone is citizen. And your nation is your fatherland. We now call it motherland. Okay. Your nation is your fatherland. This type of views were brought before the people so that people can feel attached to the country. When you call everyone as citizen, no one high, no one low, all are citizens. That means all are equal. That equality comes. And when equality comes, you feel oneness. You feel belongingness. The notion of a united community enjoying equal rights under a constitution. So they wanted such type of country where there is a constitution written, where people have their rights, people rule over themselves, such type of country, then only that feeling of oneness comes and all will be treated equally. A new French flag, which is the tricolor, was chosen to replace the former royal standard. Royal flag was used, the king's flag. But that was removed and a new flag, a French flag, tricolor was started, which was for everyone belonging to that nation. Like we have a tricolor for all the Indians. We feel proud when we see the tricolor. We feel proud when we hold the tricolor. We feel we belong to one nation, isn't it? Whether we may be speaking different languages, we may be male, female, or anything. But when that flag is there, when we talk about a national flag, national anthem, what happens? That feeling of oneness comes in. So that is what they wanted to develop among the people. The Estates General, you know about this also, Estates General, isn't it? First estate, second estate, third estate, you had learned in class 9. And the third estate people were the ones who were suffering the lot. Now all that was removed and the rule was under the National Assembly. Estate General was that parliament that was changed, National Assembly ruled by the people.
5 minutes है.
Composed, oaths taken, martyrs commemorated, all in the name of the nation. Now, new hymns started for the country. Martyrs, those who have laid down their lives for the country. People started remembering them, celebrating their martyrdom, because of which today they were liberated from monarchical rule. So this type of things were done in order to bring that belongingness, the feeling of belongingness among the people. A centralized administrative system was put in place and it formulated uniform laws for all citizens. Like we have the central government in the center, and then what happens? Laws are same for everyone, everywhere in the country. So that way, a centralized administrative system was set up there. Internal custom duties and dues were abolished and a uniform system of weights and measures were adopted. Earlier, what happened? From one place to another, you are going, there was customs duty. You had to pay. All right. Now, some are not putting on the when you are sitting. Okay. Only names are coming, video is not coming. Some of you. Just put on your video also. All right. Yes. Now, what happened? The revolutionaries further, 1 minute. A centralized administrative system, I told you, internal customs and duty. That is, everything from one place to another, you had to pay customs.
Sir, your voice is lagging.
In India only, suppose you are going from Rajasthan to Gujarat, then Gujarat to Delhi, Delhi to somewhere else. If everywhere you have to pay customs duty, then how will you earn something? We are living in one country. How can we have different customs duty for going to different states of the same country? So all that was removed there also. Earlier they had it like that, but that was removed. Everything was removed. Centralized system was done. Weights and measures. Different places had different weights. Somewhere 1 kg was 1000 grams, somewhere else it was not 1000 grams. So again, you are going from place to another, the weight also changes. And according to the weight of the thing, the duty or the tax that you have to pay, that also changes. So all this created a lot of problems. So once it became a nation state, everything was unified. Regional dialects were discouraged when French written in Paris became the common language of the nation. They wanted French, as it was spoken in Paris, to become the common language of all the people should speak that way. In different places, now Hindi also, when you go to different places, people have different ways of speaking it. That is the dialects. So they discouraged dialects and they encouraged the French language as it was spoken in Paris. This way the French language should be spoken everywhere in France. That also of the revolutionaries further declared that it was the mission and the destiny of Europe from despotism, that is king's rule, in other words, to help other people of Europe to become. Once France became a nation, then the revolutionaries declared that now we are going to help all the other countries in Europe to become nations. We are going to liberate them from monarchical rule. We are going to free them from the rule of the king. When the news of the events in France reached the different cities of Europe, students and other members of educated middle classes began setting up clubs. They made their clubs, the revolutionary clubs, in order to work to find out how they are going to make their country also a nation. Their activities and campaigns prepared the way for the French armies, which moved into Holland, Belgium, Switzerland, and much of Italy in the 1790s. Now you can see the French army was allowed everywhere. The French army was allowed everywhere. Because all the other countries also wanted to be liberated, to be freed from the rule of the king. So everywhere the French army was welcome, thinking that this army is coming and they will help us also to be free, to have equal rights. With the outbreak of the Revolutionary War, the French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad. So first, they did it in their country, and after that, the French army started taking this feeling of nationalism, this idea of nationalism to other countries. Come to the next page. Within the wide swathe of territory that came under his control, Napoleon set about introducing many of the reforms that he had already introduced in France. Now see, whatever changes he brought in France, as the French army went to other places, different places, Napoleon introduced all those changes there also. What were these changes? Through a return to monarchy, Napoleon had no doubt destroyed democracy in France. But in the administrative field, he had incorporated revolutionary principles in order to make the whole system more rational and efficient. Okay, with the coming of Napoleon's rule, again you can say a way of monarchy came back. Democracy finished and monarchy came back in France. But the administrative system of Napoleon was very nice. And this system he introduced in all the other places also where the French armies went. Let's work. The principles, the ideologies of Napoleon, they are known as the Civil Code of 1804, or it is also called the Napoleonic Code. Code or Napoleonic Code, you can underline that. What was there in the Civil Code or the Napoleonic Code? Let us see. Underline all these things. Away with the privileges based on birth, established equality before law, and secured the right to property. Earlier also, when you were doing the French Revolution, you must have seen that royal people, the kings had their privileges. But with the coming of the Napoleonic Code, everything finished. No privileges by birth. All right, you are not going to get any privilege. Then all will be equal before law. Everyone has the right to hold property. This code was exported to the regions under French control. So from France, this Napoleonic Code was taken to all other areas which came under the control of the French armies. In the Dutch Republic, in Switzerland, in Italy, Germany, Napoleon simplified administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system, the zamindari system that was going on, freed peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. Peasants, the laborers, the serfs, laborers, agricultural laborers, they had to work for the landlords and they would not get any wages also. So they had to work like slaves. He finished all this. He said, no, nothing doing. No landlord from now onwards. No agricultural laborer from now onwards. All are equal before law. He brought about this equality. In the towns, who guild restrictions were removed. There were restrictions to form union of different professional people. He removed all that. You can form union. You can think about how to develop your community, how to develop the people who belong to your profession. You are free to do that. Transport and communication systems were improved. Peasants, artisans, workers, and new businessmen enjoyed a newfound of freedom. So when this type of system came, everyone was happy. Peasants, businessmen, everyone happy with this new system. Businessmen and small-scale producers of goods in particular began to realize that uniform laws, standardized weights and measures, and a common national currency would facilitate the movement and exchange of goods and capital from one region to another. Now, you see, I told you, suppose we are living in Kota. Now, from here, from the station, I want to go to Nayapura with something. Then from Nayapura to Kumankura, from there to Vidyanagar, then to Talwandi. And at different places, suppose the police stops me for some custom duty, some tax. So I have a thing which costs 10 rupees. By the time I pay the taxes and reach my destination, the cost of the thing will become 100 rupees. So then how will I do my business? Is it possible? Maybe when that 10 rupee things becomes 100 rupee things, no one will buy it to me. So he stopped all this. He said one nation means only one way of measuring things, one way of weighing things. Only one custom duty should be there. One tax should be there. This is what he did. And because of that, what happened? Business, trade, it became easy. People loved it. However, in areas conquered, the reactions of the local population to French rule were mixed. Initially, in many places such as Holland and Switzerland, as well as in certain cities like Brussels, Mainz, Milan, and Warsaw, the French armies were welcomed as harbingers of liberty. But the initial enthusiasm soon turned to hostility as it became clear that the new administrative arrangement did not go hand in hand with the political freedom. So, in the beginning, people were very happy, but then slowly, there were some problems coming up. Why? In some areas, he increased tax, censorship, nothing against the government should be printed, forced conscription to French armies from different places. Started recruiting people for the French armies to fight. All this was not liked by the people, and all seemed to outweigh the advantages of the administrative changes. So, whatever changes he brought, good changes, those good changes got hidden behind these things which people did not like. Nice things, good things he brought, but these were some things which people did not like. And because of that, people started raising their voice against the French army and against Napoleon. Stop here for today. It's already time. Okay. So, then tomorrow we'll meet again. All right. Bye.